It is Axe Week, the biggest game of the year for the Badgers. Let's talk Badgers. Let's talk Gophers. Let's break it down. Keys to the game coming up next on Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I am so excited for this one. We are talking about the Axe. We have a special guest coming on. We're going to scout the Gophers. Kane Robb, good friend. We've been on the show before a long time ago. He now does his Gopher for Broke podcast. Sorry, buddy. But used to be the Locked On Gophers host. Really good guy. Really good, intelligent commenter on sports. Dude, let's talk about this. This is Axe Week. This is a great time of the year.
The best week of the year. I think the only thing that Gophers fans and Badgers fans agree on is that we've got the best trophy out there. And so there's a lot on the line this week.
Let me start here, man. Because a lot of Badger fans, a lot of college football fans, they just mostly watch their team throughout the course of the year. You have an idea of who teams are going into the season. But at this point, who are the Gophers? Like offense, defense, what's this team been this year, coming off a couple losses, but a tough loss to Northwestern where they scored 35?
I would say, I don't know if the Gophers fully know who they are this year. I feel like they had moments of like high highs. The pass rush was nasty. And then these last few weeks, it's been almost non-existent. They had times where they really were great in the pass game. And then all of a sudden they dwindled and couldn't run or pass or do anything. So I feel like they haven't found what makes them them. I think that's something I've been critical on them over the year of, is like, what is your identity when you're on the road or when times get tough? And I feel like this younger Gophers team hasn't figured it out. Now, yeah, they have some starters that are older, some guys that have brought experience, but I don't think that this Gophers team truly knows who they are when it gets to those crazy moments. But the one thing that we are super excited about is we have a quarterback that we can actually like trust and lean on, and he's young and there's a lot of hope and potential there. Now, the biggest thing is hopefully getting a win this week, but then keeping him here too.
Talk to us about Drake Lindsay, because I like him. You mentioned younger quarterback, somebody you could potentially build around, which is something Badger fans have been desperate for. 15 touchdowns this year, 6 picks, 60+% completion percentage, good thrower. What is he like? Where does he excel? And when he has struggled this year, what have teams done to him?
Yeah, I would definitely say the thing that a lot of people maybe took Drake for granted because they saw 3-star Arkansas, not many offers from power schools. But the thing that always stood out to me about him was he was a 3-year starter and he had a 91-9 touchdown to interception ratio in high school. And then when he came early enrolled and whatnot, you could see like he had that moxie about him. He had that field IQ about him. When I talked to him when he was a senior in high school, he talked about how he was working on anticipation throwing and anticipatory throwing. And so we've seen that through his whole redshirt season, working alongside Max Brosmer. And I think that was his biggest growing point, was being handcuffed to Max Brosmer and being like, why did you do this? Why are you reading this like this? Why did you check out of this? And now you can see, as his first year of starting, him making very similar choices, him making the smart moves, getting him in the right checks and things like that. And so for a redshirt freshman, super impressed by his field IQ, his ability to throw the ball with some anticipation. I think the things that maybe have caught him off guard a little bit are some of the, pressures that he has seen. I feel like the offensive line, especially the right side of the offensive line, has not done him many favors. And so he does have guys in his lap pretty quickly at times, and he's not the most mobile guy, like plain and simple. He's great at reading in the pocket. He's great at trying to get out on the move and keeping the ball out of harm's way, but he's not a guy who's going to break it out and get you 5-6 yards on a broken play. Like, he's a guy that's probably going to have to dirt the ball or throw it out of bounds or things like that. So if you can get enough pressure on him, it's an issue. And also, I feel like the Gophers wide receivers have had a really hard time in separating in man coverage. And so if they don't separate, he has to put the ball in tight window throws. And that has led to a lot of pass breakups, especially against like Purdue, Iowa, and what have you.
I was going to do this later in our keys of the game, but I think you set it up perfectly for me. The Badgers pass rush has been dynamic the last several weeks. And you just talked about the offensive line and maybe Lindsay not being the most mobile quarterback. Where do you see that offensive line for the Gophers holding up against the Badgers pass rush that has come alive? Because Wisconsin, if they're going to win this game, I think it's going to be because that pass rush flusters Lindsay.
Yeah, I definitely think that your defensive line versus our offensive line is the biggest key to this game. I feel like our defense has been inconsistent and poor. Your offense has been kind of inconsistent and poor. So it comes down to the strength of your D line, which is nasty and deep, to our offensive line, which has been inconsistent. Now, they've been really bad on the road. They've been somewhat better at home. And I know that Coach Fleck has talked about maybe trying to get a new face in there and whatnot. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. But overall, I think it just comes down to, can they hold up and give him an extra second of time, just one extra second? I know that's a lot in football time, but if they can do that, I think the Gophers offense can move the football. If they can't, then this is going to be a really low scoring affair, in my opinion, and it might be some gritty, grimy, old school Big Ten football.
It feels like it feels to me like this is going to be a Big Ten West game for all the good and terrible of it. Several Badger fans in the comments already say they're heading up to Minnesota right now, life in the fast lane, looking for a big game from Brendan Lane for sure in this one. Let me ask you this, man. And I love, again, thank you for taking the time to jump on the show. What happened to the Gophers running game this year? Because that's really been a staple of PJ Fleck and the teams he's always built. It's been power running, being able to get between the tackles. Much like Wisconsin this year, that running game just hasn't been there. And you have Darius Taylor, who I think all Badger fans know. What happened to that running game this year?
Yeah, game 2, Darius Taylor, first drive of the game, running towards the end zone, came up a little limp, I guess, hamstring injury. And I feel like ever since then, it has been up and down. He sat out, I believe, 3 games, or maybe it was 4 weeks, 3 games overall. He came back against Ohio State, got like a couple of touches, which I don't know why the first game back we had Darius Taylor come back against Ohio State, like give it another week. But he really came back to his own, I'd say, against Nebraska. And then all of a sudden, once we got to the Iowa game, he played like 3 snaps and something seemed to have flared up again. And so I feel like he's been dealing with a lot of soft tissue injuries, which sucks because that's been kind of a lot of the ding on his career. He's got all the talent in the world, but it's hard to stay on the field. And you could even see last week against Northwestern, he had like a big broken run. And this is the one you usually turn into like 50 yards, 60 yards. And it was like, whoa. Is Darius okay? He looked like he was dragging like a whole sled with him on the way there. Something is clearly wrong, but he's playing and fighting through it. So I would say that paired with those offensive line struggles, again, especially on that right side of the line, has just made our run game non-existent.
Well, and this has been a Badgers team that's been the one thing they've done consistently well all year is play rush defense. So it feels like it's going to be a Lindsay game. If Lindsay's able to beat them through the air, and the Badgers have been susceptible to that at times, that might be the path to victory for the Gophers. We're going to take a quick second here for our friends of the show. We're going to come back, talk defensive matchups. That Gophers pass rush leads the Big Ten in sacks. They got multiple dudes. We got to talk about it and how the Badgers are going to hold up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show. And a quick second, as always, say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends, and it is holiday season, y'all. It is Thanksgiving. It is Christmas. It is Black Friday. It is time to give the gift that makes you the ultimate gift giver over at Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks is absolutely incredible, and they take the stress out of buying gifts. It's easy to find the perfect gift. Omaha Steaks makes it too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to friends or family, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to your door or their door, because you can gift this for yourself. And honestly, there's worse things you can do with money than give yourself some Omaha Steaks. Right now, the variety is incredible. Steaks, burgers, comfort meals, plus sides, desserts. They have you all covered. And as someone who is not great in the kitchen, I can grill. So I'll take some Omaha Steaks as well. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off your select favorites during their cyber sale. Plus, because they're friends of ours and we're friends of yours, you get $35 off with promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE, terms to apply. See site for details. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back. I absolutely love betting on NBA with FanDuel because every single week, every single day, there's a bunch of different action, a bunch of different slates of games. And you don't have to be there for the start of it. Live in-game betting and same-game parlays allow you to put all that together for an even bigger payout, plus futures, parlays, teasers, spreads. It's all over there on our great friends at FanDuel. And when you win, you're going to get that money quickly, simply. It's painless. The user interface is incredible. And they have a great new offer for our new listeners. FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's $300 if your first $5 bet hits. Head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's get back into this. Bring on the great Kane Rob. Again, like I missed him when he left Locked On. Kane, where can people find everything you got going on right now? Because I'm sure there's going to be Badger fans tapping in to see content from both sides for this game.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Gophers Kane Rob. Otherwise, we have our own podcast we launched. It's called Gopher Broke Podcast. It's myself and Tristan Spanford, a long family friend. His brother is Brevin Spanford, former Gopher and now Cowboys tight end. So we just like to chop it up, have our own vibe, and being away from Locked On, it's tough. I like the Locked On Network, but the thing I will is I can swear every once in a while, get the feelings out. So, after some of these tough losses, we just get to go a little crazy on the postcast.
I love it, man. And that's a name that I think all Big Ten fans know. You're talking about that Badger, our Big Ten royalty, Gophers royalty, Spanford was an absolute stud. We got to talk about this Gophers pass rush, man. Leading the Big Ten in sacks, multiple dudes. What's the key to their success? Teams that have maybe slowed them down, what have they done?
It's a great question. I feel like, first off, Anthony Smith is the guy. He leads the Big Ten in sacks. And I feel like if you can get 2 on him, it kind of can slow him down. And then it comes down to the others on this defensive line. Now, we've had some guys step up like Carter Menz, Jackson Howard. Those guys have gotten in there and added to the sack party. But overall, the last couple of weeks have been tough. It looks like people maybe have started to figure things out. I mean, we only had 7 pressures against Northwestern. That was our tied for lowest on the season with the Ohio State game where we had 7 pressures. And I know this isn't news for your fans or ours, but Northwestern's line is not as good as Ohio State's offensive line. So I don't know what's going on there, but overall there have been some struggles. So 7 pressures last game, 8 pressures the game before. It's really been slowing up for this Gophers defensive line. And so if they want to have a shot in this one at slowing the run game down, especially, we got to get pressure back there. We got to get this quarterback hopefully frazzled a little bit. I mean, your quarterback can run too. So that makes it a whole different weapon when it comes to this Gophers and how they got to think defensively. This Gophers defense over the month of November has been atrocious. I believe it is the worst in giving up yardage in the month of November in the entire Big Ten. We gave Michigan State almost 500 yards of offense. We gave Northwestern and Oregon over 500 yards of offense. So the last 3 weeks have been pitiful for this defense, and the defensive line hasn't been able to get pressure. Hopefully they can find an answer here, but if not, this could be a rough one.
What are the vibes around the program right now? I know that's a hard question to ask, but from the outside looking in, again, you cover this much more closely than I do with the Gophers. It feels like the end of this season has been trending down a little bit, and you talked to defense. That's what I felt coming into our preview show. Where's the fan base at right now?
I think the fan base is in a really weird spot because, we made the bowl game pretty early, and so people were like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. But then we were like, okay, we want more. And then all of a sudden you're heading to Iowa game. You're already bowl eligible, or you're on the edge of bowl eligible. I think you're 5-2 at that point. You head to the Iowa game and you're like, okay, we want to compete with Iowa. We want to win against Iowa. But overall, every time we play Iowa, it's competitive. And then we lost 41-3. And people were like, what is happening? I thought we were supposed to be trending upwards. What's going on right now? We couldn't run the ball. The pass game looked the worst they had the entire season. So people were panicking a little bit. We get to the Michigan State game. And again, we beat them by a field goal in overtime, or we beat them by 3 or something like that. It was something real close, blanking right now. But overall, it was a tight game, and it just wasn't what you were expecting when it comes to how this Gophers team would respond. Then you go to Oregon, you don't compete. You go to Northwestern, and your defense looks like they don't know how to stop a nosebleed. People are a little worried right now. They're a little concerned. I think people are good with flex still. They've seen how the recruiting class is building. They've seen how it's a life program, and they really want to take people over the course of their careers. But I think a lot of people are like, look, these coordinators might have to go. If we can't find ways to get responses, and we need some sort of change. We can't just run it back next year, having started 6-3. And if you lose this game against Wisconsin, you finish 6-6, and that feels like a punch in the mouth because you lost to your rival and you were on a trend that you could have won 8 games. Plus hopefully a bowl game. So I feel like people are a little up in arms. People are a little bit questioning on what is going on. The offense has been slow. The defense has been falling apart. So the coordinators are the biggest thing I think people are wanting to see some change for.
It's really interesting, right? It's kind of fascinating where the Badgers started and the Gophers started to where they are now. And again, a lot of that depends on this next game. If the Gophers win this, it changes everything. If the Badgers win this, it changes a lot too. But there's a chance you could limp into the offseason like the Badgers did last year. Whereas the Badgers, even at 5-7, they would be 5-7 if they beat Minnesota. It would feel like they have momentum going into the offseason. It's a very interesting spot. I'm curious, man, and I want your take on this. The Badgers offense has been among the worst offenses in Power 4 football this year. It's been really difficult as a Badgers fan. It's a team that hasn't been able to pass the ball. They're reliant on a running game that's been inconsistent. They have a young quarterback who, as you said, can run the ball a little bit, relying on a lot of motion. How are the Gophers going to approach this defensively, do you think?
Honestly, I think the Gophers are going to try to stack this box, especially what Dupree did last week. I think they're going to try and stack the box and make you throw the ball if they can. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to work, because if you stack the box and your quarterback can get outside on the run, maybe he picks up 7-8 yards and all of a sudden it's a short yardage run and you're getting short, slow and steady moving the field. I could see that happening for the Badgers, but I think the Gophers defense is going to aim to try and make Carter Smith prove that he can throw the ball, seeing as he hasn't thrown for 100 yards yet. But I think Gophers fans can't get stuck on that box score of him not getting over 100 yards yet, because they haven't been asking him to do that. They've just been asking him to take care of the ball and not turn it over. If we can get this thing moving slowly and steady and our defense can keep us in the game, that's how the Badgers have been finding this success against a ranked Washington or ranked Illinois and what have you. So it's not like they've asked him to, but now they're going to come up against the Gophers defense that has been atrocious in the past game as of the last 3-4 weeks especially. You don't want to be the team that all of a sudden is like, oh, Carter Smith just balled out for 250 on us and he's showed why they're excited about him in the future. Like, that could very well happen if the Gophers don't get their act together and find a way to respond. I think my biggest thing I've been saying for the Gophers on our channel is that you have to find a way to adjust in the game. I feel like that used to be a staple for the Gophers, but this year it's been like they've been so stuck to their game plan and whatever they planned for that week that they won't move from it. And then all of a sudden they've been getting picked apart or torn or scorched by one or two players because we don't adjust to who the hot hand is.
Yeah, that's really well said. Because I do think it can get a little too easy just to focus on that one thing. And then suddenly if something isn't working in game, you don't have an adjustment. You're not ready to pivot onto something else. Let's do a couple X factors. Who are a couple players Badger fans? I think Badger fans know certainly Drake Lindsay, Coy in the secondary. They know several of the Gophers' key players. Who's an X factor, offense and defense, that Badger fans may not be aware of?
I think a big name for this week on the offense is Javon Tracy. He's been coming alive and building a really good connection with Drake Lindsay. I feel like usually when the Gophers take in a transfer wide receiver, it takes him about a year, and then the next year he really does his best work. But this year he's been coming alive, especially late. I think he had a touchdown against Oregon, 3 touchdowns against Northwestern, and that connection is just building more and more. But again, the Gophers don't lean into the hot hand, which is crazy to me. If I had a guy who had 4 receptions for like 80 yards and 3 touchdowns, I'd keep finding a way to get it into his hands, but they didn't want to do that last week against Northwestern. So on the offensive side, I think outside of your typical names, Javon Tracy is one to keep an eye on. And on the defense, I think Carter Menz is super impressive this year. He is a redshirt freshman. I don't think people really expected him to contribute this year, but he's worked his way into that defensive end rotation. I think he has the second most sacks on the team. I could be wrong there off the top, but Carter Menz is a young player. He was the best player in North Dakota when he had come out of that class. He might be a redshirt sophomore now that I think about it. I think he was 2 classes ago. But regardless, he's been coming alive lately, and I think if Anthony Smith is taking on some doubles and things like that, Carter Menz is the guy who can try to respond.
Yeah, man, that's a good call. Menz is a good player. I was just looking at some stats before the show. I think he's in the top 15 in the Big Ten in sacks right now. Like, that's a real legitimate kind of Robin to Anthony's Batman there. Give me a key matchup to this game. And I think for me, the first one I talked about is it. I think it's that Gopher offense line against this Badgers front 7. You mentioned some of the pressure rates against Northwestern that the Gophers had. The Badgers had a 54% pressure rate against Illinois. I mean, they hit Altmaier so many times at the end of the game, he looked like he was 74 years old. I mean, they pulled him off the field, so this Badgers defense has just come absolutely alive, just getting after every quarterback they played really for the last 4 weeks. I think that's the key of the game, because I don't think the Gophers are going to run on Wisconsin. It comes down to if Lindsay has time.
Here's the thing. I agree with you 100%. I think that's the key matchup. Your two freshmen outside linebackers that are just absolutely demonic are crazy to watch, but you've got depth with that too. You got Peterson out here, who's the player of the week last week in the Big Ten. Like, you've got all sorts of guys you can throw at this offensive line. So it definitely worries me on that front. You said the Gophers probably aren't going to run in this game. That's the thing I'm most worried about. I think that the Gophers are going to try and run in this game, and that's going to be their downfall. I said in our podcast, I said, look, PJ Fleck, like, this is a time to set your pride aside and like stop being stubborn. If you got to throw the ball 50 times in this game, throw the ball 50 times. But if we really try to force the run against the Badgers stacked box with linebackers and D line that has the depth, I think we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot and put ourselves in a super close game, which is not the game this Gophers team wants to be in because they haven't been able to respond really well in those situations.
Well, let's kind of finish it off here. And again, incredibly appreciative of your time, man. From Hooger, what is Kane's prediction for the game? I don't know if you make game picks. Some people don't.
I do. We did ours yesterday's show, and I think I ended up saying Minnesota 31, Wisconsin 24. The score feels far too high, but I'm just going with the gut on that one, hopefully speaking it into existence. I do think it's going to be a single score game. I think that 1 point line is probably more accurate. This is me probably being a little bit homer biased on that one, but it's me leaning into if they really go and find success in the pass game and pass it 50 times. If PJ stays stubborn and things like that, give me like a 18-17 game or something like that. Like, it's not going to be a barn burner probably, but I've got a 1-score game for sure.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's like 13-10.
Yeah.
I think it's like 17-14. I mean, I really think it's that. Again, on principle, I can never pick the Gophers to beat Wisconsin. I understand that.
I feel that 100%.
I do think if I'm trying to take my biased hat off, which is impossible, but the Badgers are playing with a lot of momentum lately. That script has really flipped. They played some incredibly tough competition. I think they got the ball rolling a little bit. I think the pass rush gets after Lindsay. But again, in a close game, and you know this, one bad bounce can flip it. And I think this is a close game. It's going to come down to, is there a block kick? Is there a fumble on a punt return? Is there a tipped interception? And yeah, I think that's what it's going to come down to. I do want to hit you this, and this is more of a big picture question. How do you evaluate teams in the Big Ten? So Scott Martin says, what does he think Minnesota's record would have been with Wisconsin's schedule? Just a big picture question on how do you evaluate teams when there's sometimes very different schedules, levels of competition?
Yeah, no, I think it's tough. It's tough to look at overall because, I mean, you head into week 4 or 5, people are, or maybe even 6, people are like, Maryland looks like a Big Ten team this year, and they've gone on to lose 8 in a row. Minnesota has played in the ugliest games against the worst teams and found a way to win. So it's super hard to evaluate because I feel like any week someone can take you down. I mean, you look at the Michigan Northwestern game. Northwestern almost took that one from Michigan. And so overall, I think if Minnesota had to play Wisconsin's schedule, look, it probably wouldn't be pretty. It probably would be very similar to what you guys are experiencing. Maybe we're sitting in that same position of 4 wins and hoping to get another one here in the final week. I think it all depends on how you come alive late, especially in the struggles. And I feel like Wisconsin has been responding a lot in these late stages, and that's with a quarterback that's what, 3rd or 4th heading into the season in the depth chart overall. So I think that Wisconsin, look, I was talking a lot of trash. I'm not gonna lie. We got our rivalry, and you got to lean into it when you can. I was talking a whole lot of trash at the midway point of this season. Like, look, they'll be lucky if they win a Big Ten game. And then you get to the Washington game, and I'm like, oh snap! Like they got one. I was like, okay, it was a fluke. It was a fluke, right? Nope. You go and you give it to Brett Bielema too. So I mean, the way they've been responding, especially with their defensive players, I think they're trending in the right direction to set up for next year. So I hate to see that, but if they can keep their guys around and they get a couple good transfer hits, that can flip the script for next year easily. I think Minnesota, it comes down to, try to finish with a big win this week, win a bowl game, and then you finish with 8 wins on the season. You don't love it how it played out, but overall, it comes down to the portal again. Can you get the right guys you have to hit? I would say PJ Fleck has done pretty good over the years at hitting on the guys he pulls out of the portal, but this year was not one of those years. Most of our portal grabs haven't contributed in huge manners. And so I feel like the portal is becoming more and more important, and we're starting to feel that across the entire Big Ten landscape.
Yeah, that's really well said. And I love it. Lean into the rivalry. And I mean, whoever wins this game will be talking smack too. I want to say this, and on the way out, Kane, I don't have many Minnesota fans. Kane's a real one. And when I can remember this specifically, when Luke Fickell was hired, you were very quick on pump the brakes, and it wasn't an anti-Wisconsin thing. You were dead right. And I want to give you props on that when you said and you liked the hire. I remember you liked the hire, but you said, hey guys, it's not going to happen year 1, year 2. It's going to take a little bit of time. And meanwhile, I was over here like Big Ten West championship. So like, I got to give you credit on that one, man. You absolutely called that.
Hey, I appreciate it. And yeah, no, I mean, I think overall, I thought the hire could be really well. We'll see if it pans out that way. We'll see. I think next year's a huge one for you guys and if he sticks around or not. But, I hope that the Gophers get another win this weekend. And then I'll be like, yeah, keep him. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to put my Axe trophy up. I have an Axe trophy that I don't display until the Badgers win. So I'm hoping we go and take care of business. He is Kane Robb. Really appreciate, even though he's a Gophers fan, really appreciate the insight and him coming on. He's a great dude. Go check out his work, please. On Wisconsin, as always, from me. Kane, good luck this weekend. Not too much, but I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah, you as well. Appreciate the time.